Hey guys, it's Tyler, as always. I was thinking a lot about the last stream that I did with Mr. Max over on his channel and Samuel G, who suggested the topic of GM Fiat. And I mused just kind of out loud, well, hang on. GM Fiat and player agency, they're the same concept, but we use them interchangeably. Or not, we don't use them interchangeably, rather. Why is that? And we talked at length about how part of the problem is that, well, there's a bunch of shitty GMs out there, so GMs exercising power that they've given themselves, power that the game's given them, is going to lead to people viewing it in a more negative connotation. But that actual word, fiat, it means the same thing as agency, effectively. It's you arbitrating, my character will do this. For the GMs, though, it's just the world will do this. We use the example, the classic rocks fall, everyone dies. And ultimately, it can lead to problems with power, the gamers, right? And how that's kind of silly because if you're trying to win the game, the GM can always just fiat no you. No, here's a stronger thing. Here's a thing that directly counters what you're doing. And that's part of why I have always struggled with the idea of trying to make a balanced game or, oh, the caster's too overpowered. Well, at the easiest end of things, you can always just say, oh, this thing's immune to magic. Oh, that doesn't exist as a stat block in your game? Well, you could make it. GM Fiat starts often even before you've sat down at the table, and this is why it's so important to have a session 0, and also why it's important to get on the same page as to what rules you're using and how malleable those rules are going to be. I mentioned in a prior video that I'm a fan of crunchier systems, but it's also fine if you run into a situation where you don't know the rule off the top of your head to make something up on the fly. That would be an example of GM Fiat. However, you need to make something up on the fly in the context of the rule system that you are using. Here's an example. If we've decided to sit down and play a D20 system game, D20 system as in Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition, 3.5 Pathfinder, etc., you would expect me to adjudicate, oh, you're trying to... that those systems cover everything pretty well, so it's kind of hard for me to come up with. But let's say the acrobatic skill didn't exist and you're trying to jump. You would probably expect me to do something like roll a d20 plus strength, or maybe a d20 plus dexterity, either or. That would be a fair level of fiat, and you would have to make that decision on the fly as a GM, or to just give them an automatic success if they're only trying to jump over like a 2-foot gap or something, and probably don't call for the roll. But if you made the call, yeah, roll a d12 plus strength. What? We don't use a d12 as die resolution. And there is a game, there are several games that use die stepping as modifiers instead of, or in addition to, adding raw numbers, such as Dungeon Crawl Classics, going from a d20 to a d16 to a d14 and etc. So then we would run into the issue of, why wouldn't we play Dungeon Crawl Classics instead? This is not a so the rules don't matter. It's so the rules matter a lot. The mechanics of the game and the game that you choose at session 0 effectively locks in the amount of GM Fiat that you are allowed to feasibly do without making your players pissed. I will frequently mention it because it's mind-boggling. That time that Matt Colville goes, oh, well, technically this is from Dungeons & Dragons, just not this edition. Well, we didn't agree to play 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. We agreed to play 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So your players have every right to be pissed that you are actively pulling. This isn't I forgot the rule off the top of my head. No, you have it written down. That's a violation of player trust, and you want to play high trust games. maybe another video on that in the future if that interests people. But I won't elaborate that too much. You want to be able to trust the people at your table. That's what's going to lead to compelling roleplay and good flow of gameplay. You won't have to stop constantly and go, is that right? Oh, is that really how much damage you can do? No, just cover all that at the end of the game and then get people's character sheets fixed. Done that a million times rather than go, well, actually, you have to, no, this +4 that you get here, it's a circumstance bonus. It doesn't stack with this other circumstance bonus that you have from this other feat. So, no, let's not, let's not worry about that right now. What we want to worry about are the times where it's a make or break. You're trying to run over a 10-foot gap. The bridge is falling out and there is a werewolf chasing your party. You're trying to take a running leap and, there's no jumping mechanic in your game. Well, you have a core mechanic. And so that can guide the GM's fiat, right? Where it's like, okay, I already know we use a d20 plus some stats. That's how we get over everything. So I'm not going to GM fiat away from the d20, and I'm probably not going to GM fiat away from, well, what, having a slippery surface is a -2 to climbing, so just rattle off in your head, oh, these other mechanics already exist and they give me a ballpark here. That way I can adjudicate fairly within this range. I wouldn't suddenly, though I could, use my GM fiat to say, yeah, it's a roll a d20 plus 2, and it's a DC 35. It's like, well, hang on, why are you even having me roll? That's impossible to... I can't possibly reach that number, right? That would just be an auto-fail, right? Which you could also adjudicate if it was something more ridiculous, like the character is attempting to make a ball of lava like a snowball. I don't know why. That's not a specific example. It's just a ridiculous thing I thought of off the top of my head. Obviously, that would be an auto fail. There's no possible way you could do that. Assuming you're a full mortal, a normal mortal. I'm making a video late at night, so there are times where GM fiat can abide by logic rather than strictly the rules of the game that you've set out to play. Likewise, if you're a player, your agency should go so far as we've decided you're going to be able to change things in session 0. What kind of a game is this going to be? If it's going to be a 4D style game with more co-creation, then again, it's going to be expected that you don't pick up a shotgun in a medieval and I mean a modern pump action shotgun. Of course, maybe if the circumstances dictated it, you could get away. But play to the setting, play to the circumstances. Don't cheat yourself. And I'm not talking about cheating, just by making the numbers, whatever. Of course, that's more on the GM there. Obviously, don't cheat by just saying, oh, 20 plus 2. Oh, yeah, I got a 35. The point I'm making here is when you're doing the co-creation stuff, there's things that you can change and there's things that you can't change. And sometimes you'll find out after the fact that it was too much or too little. That's okay. Likewise, you should discuss in the session 0 whether or not you're making something so, I think Shauna would say safety's off, PvP enabled, so to speak, or just the idea of allowing for intra-party conflict, which I think is super interesting, and allowing for, what's the word? I'm struggling here. I'm losing my word. I'm losing steam here. Allowing for the players to know what's going on beforehand, if there's some telegraphing out of character, or if there's less telegraphing and there is more stumbling your way through the dark. There is no, oh, I pick up, you don't wander into a broom closet and go, I pick up a broom because it's a broom closet, obviously. If there's less of that, if there's less agency as far as that goes, make it clear in session 0, and you can avoid a lot of the annoying murder hobo-y, oh, it's what my character would do. Do what your character would do. But if you have the agency, if you have the fiat to do whatever, because it's a high freedom game, a high co-creation game, a high trust game, you shouldn't exercise all of that freedom all the time. Just because you have it doesn't mean you should use it all the time. Just as in real life, there are plenty of drugs that are legal. I was going to a Chinese restaurant that I really like, and next door there's a head shop, and they're advertising whippets on the front. And I was going, holy shit, I forgot those were legal. Wow. That's all I could say. All I could say was, wow. You have the freedom to do that. You probably shouldn't do that. Freedom to do something also doesn't mean freedom from consequences, is where I'll finish this off. As a player, if you have a murder hobo, if you are a murder hobo character, that is, know that you'll end up being hunted down by guards. You'll end up being hunted down by the town. You'll end up being hunted down by bounty hunters and all sorts of... You basically be a constant fugitive, and that could be interesting to play, but I've had players in the past get pissed that, yeah, this isn't Skyrim. The guards don't blink their eyes and then just forget what you did. No, it's not a 50 gold fine for killing someone and a couple of weeks in the jail. No, that's it. That's you are being hunted down for the rest of your days. Better change your identity. And on the other side, GM, if you exercise your ability to be a free agent as the world, use Fiat as it's commonly called, if you exercise that to just do random rocks fall, everyone dies, oh, you step out of the inn, a carriage runs you over and kills you, well, the consequences of that are more real world. You just don't be surprised when nobody shows back up to your table. Hopefully that helps. A little bit of a... It's rambly still, but hopefully still more concrete than I was able to be in Max's stream. Thanks, guys. Take care.